Who wants to talk about this? Why do we want to talk about sad things? Can't we just be happy all the time? Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. So I am here in Mexico City, Mexico, and I'm here to talk about trauma. That used to be the mentality that arguably I do still have, but I had for at least a good chunk of my life. And that was because I didn't have the language, the emotional maturity, the understanding, the context of why it was important for me to address bad things that I'd experienced and the pain and the suffering that came from that, and the pain and the suffering of other people in my life and of the world in general. I was just not interested in it. I wasn't interested in it. I've been on a spiritual journey in general my whole life, but then it's really ramped up in the last couple of years, and especially with quitting my job, it got super deep. What I found is that the more I got closer to God, which is my whole purpose, the more I was called to heal my trauma. And so it was something I could not escape from as much as I wanted to, and arguably still want to, and maybe have. Fingers crossed. And so I want to share some of the resources that helped me, and then how my life has gotten just way better as a result, honestly. And for that, I am really, really grateful. Before we get started, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? The first resource I want to talk about is good old Thomas Hübl. Listen, I feel like when God created Thomas Hübl, he was like,
all right, Chimdi, at some point, you're gonna need to heal all this trauma. We both know you don't want to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the man talking to you about trauma be real motherfucking sexy.
And I was like, well,
I can listen. I can listen to the man talk. I don't gotta like incorporate nothing, but I can listen to him talk.
the fact that Thomas Hübl looks like how he looks is a major reason why I'm healing my trauma. He is my type of white man. Other white men I like, the actor who plays Bucky Barnes, obviously Jon Snow, the actor who plays his brother, I think is also really hot. That show, The Bodyguard, y'all, so good. It's on Netflix. So my friend sent me this video with Thomas Hübl and this other guy, Terry Real. They were the ones who really made me understand in a very simple, straightforward way, girl, here's what trauma is, here's how it hurts you, and here's why you need to heal it. And the main thing that really stuck with me is that when you are here in the present moment and you are talking to somebody and you are really resonating with them and they with you, it's because you feel them feeling you. There's like this song, this music being shared between you two. And then what happens when they say something or you say something that activates some trauma for them, that triggers them, they shut off, they close down. Because the part of them that then comes in is no longer the wise adult you're talking to, but actually their adaptive child. Their adaptive child is a child version of them that had to be created when they were dealing with childhood trauma. Adaptive child's only purpose is to protect them, is to protect you. So when someone says something that like activates you, that child steps in and is like, we have to protect Chimdi, we have to protect her, get her out of the situation, shut this down, and so it becomes frozen, right? What happens when you have this part of you that's frozen is that life and that love, which is God, can't really flow through in the same way because you're not able to access this part of you because it's still stuck. As we grow up, we have these traumas that happen in childhood that aren't resolved. We get older, new ones form. And then what happens when we are no longer able to be present and be conscious, we recreate traumas because we're not actually aware of what's going on, about why we're saying certain things, about why other people are saying certain things to us and why it's making us feel a certain way. And then that just leads to more pain and more suffering that's completely unnecessary. And so by healing your own trauma, you are preventing yourself from recreating trauma and hurting yourself more, and doing that for the people you're talking to and for our world in general. All of that was literally new for me. I didn't know any of that. These coping mechanisms we create are intelligent. Our bodies are not 10, 20, 30, 50, 70 years old. They are thousands of years old. Our ancestors thousands of years ago, they faced trauma and they integrated some of it, and then some of it they kept with them and they passed it on. All the way to now, where like our parents had trauma. Some of it they were able to solve and deal with and integrate. Some of it they passed on to us. And then what we're dealing with is the stuff that they weren't able to deal with. Plus, of course, the collective trauma of our world that has collectively not dealt with a bunch of atrocities. And so sometimes we get mad at ourselves that we're reacting a certain way or we can't handle a certain situation, but actually whatever that mechanism is, that's what helped you survive when you were little. So you shouldn't be beating yourself up, because that is actually what allowed you to be here today. And that was also a real game changer for me, because I know I had a bunch of coping mechanisms that I would use to avoid intimacy, vulnerability, and just really addressing some of the things that I had around my self-worth and self-love, and realizing that actually that's what I needed to get through those younger periods of my life was just a way for me to just be way kinder to myself. The next resource is the School of Life. I've known about them for a while. I knew about them when they were just a website, but now they have a YouTube channel. They have all these other great resources. There are a few videos that have been especially powerful for me, but they've got a bunch of videos on all types of topics that are around living a healthy life. And the one that really made a difference for me was the one they made about parenting yourself. And they talk about what it's like when a baby enters this world and it is just like screaming for its life because it's just so disoriented and so lost around like what is happening, and they're so so deeply vulnerable, right? They literally can't feed themselves, can't take care of themselves. So they're just like screaming from this deep place in their soul of like, yo, like, please help me, what is going on? And it describes like when a parent is able to come in and comfort that child and you're able to feel safe and secure. But as we know, a lot of times that isn't actually what happens. As we get older and we realize in some ways our parents did our best, but some ways they did fall short, it's now up to us to be the parents for ourselves that they weren't able to be for us. The video I'm thinking of, it ended with this really beautiful animation of this like character walking down and like patting themselves on the head, and literally tears. I was bawling. I realized there was this level of like comfort that I hadn't experienced in my life. And so just literally the image of someone being comforted just kind of drove me to this deeply vulnerable place. And so it led to me whenever I was going through something in my own life being like, it's okay, Chimdi, it's okay, it's all right, you're okay, you're okay, you're all right. And it literally would always make me cry because that was a level of self-comforting and vulnerability that I hadn't let myself access before. And it's evolved all the way to like when I got my eye surgery and my eyes were healing, I'd be like, you're doing so good, you're healing, you're doing so good, eyes, I love you. Just like pouring so much up on myself. When I get mosquito bites now, I'm just like, you're doing a good job healing, I love you. Whenever I do a yoga session, you know how you end yoga, you just like squeeze your legs to your chest one last time. I'll be like, just giving all my little body parts one last kiss. When I'm in the shower and I'm washing my body, you best believe I'm pulling my titties to my face and I'm like, I love you, babies. I just pour so much love on my body now. And I realize that comes from not having that to the extent that I needed as a child. But we're not children anymore. So it's like, okay, now that you're an adult, it's on you. Like, you have what it takes to parent yourself. And so you have to like pull yourself aside and be like, hey girl, I know you're going through it, but we're gonna be all right. And you are the one who parents yourself the way you needed to be parented. So I'm really grateful for the School of Life for giving me that resource, because it really did change the way I treated myself. I treat myself with a lot more love and kindness now. It allows me to be, I think, a lot more present for other people when I see the ways that I used to not love myself, and hopefully just how I show up, model for them what it looks like to really love yourself. Hey y'all, it's Chimdi from the middle of the video. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you've not already, and of course subscribe. How are you feeling so far? Are you crying right now? What's your relationship to trauma? Drop it in the comments so we can have a whole ass dialogue. I think that'd be really nice. Alright, back to the video. The next resources are books, of course, and there's two in particular. One is The Power of Now, and the other one is Becoming Supernatural. Both of them are about our ability to change. So often we think that we know what's going to happen in the future because we know what happened in the past. And so instead of actually realizing that everything in the future is unknown, all we have actually is this moment right here. And so if we bring all of our energy to this moment, we can create anything we want in the future. Those are kind of the main themes of both The Power of Now and Becoming Supernatural. It has really helped me because it's so easy to get into these patterns of like, well, my last video didn't do well, so this video won't go well. This last date I went on was trash. This next date will be trash. This last work meeting sucked, so this next one is gonna suck. By thinking that you know what's gonna happen, you are already kind of creating within yourself the expectation, and you get what you expect. That's also what books like A Course in Miracles, Game of Life and How to Play It, a lot of, Abraham Hicks stuff. It's all the same idea around you create your reality. It's up to you. If you expect bad stuff, if you only believe in bad stuff, that's what you're gonna get. But if you understand that life can be beautiful and full of love and joy and peace and hope, and that's what you expect to happen, that's what's gonna happen. I really credit those books especially, but also a lot of the amazing books I've read as the reason why I've been able to heal so much of my trauma. And actually, on that note, I'm gonna be starting a book club for real. So I actually referenced this in my LA video. I just put like Chimdi's book club on the screen, just as like a fun thing. But someone actually DM'd me and was like, yo, I would really join your book club. And I'm like, okay, we can do like monthly calls. And I was like, yeah, I'd be down. So I'm gonna start doing a monthly book club. Go ahead and check the description box for details. It's literally just gonna be us hopping on a call every month and just talking about the great books we've been reading and sharing our learnings and how it's impacting our life. Super chill, super fun. Let me know if you wanna join, and hopefully I'll see you there. Final two things. So the next thing that's been incredibly helpful has been my friendship circle. I talk a lot on this channel about the power and importance of relationships. They have been so incredibly instrumental because they are similarly going on their own spiritual journeys. And so I'm able to talk to them and be vulnerable with them and get excited about my growth with them and create space for them when they need it, and they create space for me when I need it. For instance, I have a really good friend of mine, and we were talking about, my childhood growing up, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I like alluded to certain things. She sent me a voice note and she was like, when I listened to your childhood, Chimdi, it seems like there was a lot of neglect. And literally when she said the word, I started crying, which is how I knew that there was truth to it, because it hit me so hard. Because I don't think of myself, I don't have a victim mentality about myself. I don't think like really that I've been traumatized. Truly, like it's not really the way I think about my life and my childhood. And so when she said that, I was like, oh. And it helped me kind of unpack a lot of stuff around trust, like trust with my parents, trust with my family. There's a reason why I'm so independent and I just like jet across the world and I'm like, okay, bye y'all, I'm gonna be all right. And it comes from a childhood where I didn't feel that safety and that comfort and that protection from my family. So I was like, okay, coping mechanism, we're gonna withdraw inward. And then once we have the resources to live the life we wanna live, we are going to leave and do that. I wanna talk a bit about bullying as well. One of my brothers was a bully basically. And I feel that word is a way we kind of politely cover what is physical abuse, really. Especially I think about like in schools and stuff too. We're like, oh, kids are being bullied in school. It's like, kids are being physically assaulted in school. Like that's what we're talking about. And we're using these words, these like shadow words to talk about the real truth of what's happening because sometimes we don't want to confront it. And I realized that by being physically abused by a family member created in me this like disconnect where I didn't associate family with safety, with vulnerability, with trust. And then as an adult, I am now having to rethink and rebuild those relationships now that I understand all trauma is just recreated until it's healed. He was just acting out his trauma, which came from my parents acting out their trauma, which came from their parents acting out their trauma. Now I can, as an adult, be like, okay, that's not a reflection of my actual self-worth as a child of God. I am worthy and full of love and light, and so I can live in that truth. And now that I know that, and I know that's the case for everyone else in my family, but also in this world, how can I show up in a way that honors that for myself and for them? And I wouldn't have come to that realization. I would have just kind of kept running. I wouldn't have even said it was running from. I would have said it was like staying away from, like keeping it over there, and then I'm over here. And now as an adult, I'm able to think intentionally about like what kind of relationships do I want to create, if I want to create relationships with them, because there's no like things you have to do or should do. It's just what you want to do now that you kind of have that full picture. I just really credit my friends for creating the space for me to share what I was going through, share how this stuff was hitting me, give me advice, give me feedback, just pour love on me, and just keep that container of safety and trust there so that I could become and belong, which is something Thomas talks about as well. And then of course, the most important factor in healing my trauma, the Lord Jesus Christ. As I said, the only reason I am even working on my trauma is because when being called to get closer to God and knowing that God is pure love, God is love without any trauma attached. Our parents love us, but they love us through the lens of their own trauma. Friends, it's the same thing because this world is a traumatized world. And what you get with God is you get a love that's free from trauma. It is just pure love. And I honestly realized that that's what I struggled with as I was growing up. And even as recently as a couple of years ago was like understanding the ability to just have pure love, and it's not filtered through any kind of expectation. You don't have to prove yourself for this love. If you make mistakes, it's not gonna diminish the quality of the love. No, it is just pure love. Realizing that that is what God is, that is what is in us, that's what we can have for each other, has been a game changer because you can only love other people if you love yourself first. And to do that, you need to understand what it means to fully love yourself without that specter of trauma. And having the love of the Lord on me has been so key and so critical for that. And so I can only imagine how hard it must be to go through life and all of the ups and downs and twists and turns that come with it without knowing that deep, deep down, when it all comes down to it, you are still beautiful, worthy of love, worthy of life. And so even though things are happening, you don't ever have to doubt that truth. That has just been so incredible for me. And I'm just really incredibly grateful for the Lord because I wouldn't be on this journey if it weren't for God. So yeah, y'all. Trauma. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe, of course, to see more. Join my book club if you want to talk about books. And I will see you on the next one.